Hello, Taurus, and welcome to your monthly reading. This is for the month of April. It's a collective reading for Taurus, sun, or rising signs. So I would say you can get the full picture of, just how your month is going sometimes by watching your sun and your rising. Sometimes I'll watch my sun sign with somebody's work and then I don't really feel it until I watch my rising sign. I'm like, oh, that's more on point this month. So that's an awesome card. It's such a great card. Let's take a look at how your month is actually unfolding, and I'm feeling this deck actually here. So we're going to stick with this format until I get feedback for otherwise, or until it doesn't feel good anymore. So it's still feeling good now, and I'm getting feedback for this that is good. So we're gonna go with that. And we're taking a look at the beginning, middle, and end of the month for you. So interesting, because like right before you, I was doing Aries, and Aries also had a king card show up in the middle of the month. So I find that really interesting. So, all right, Taurus, let's see how this month is shaping up for you. Ooh, we've got court cards going on. Interesting. Okay, cool. And let's also take a look at, do I want to keep using this deck for, yep, I'm still feeling it. Okay. You guys should know me by now. I use several decks and sometimes several decks in one reading. So challenge, and nope, I'm not feeling that. I was almost gonna pull that, but ooh. We're looking at what your spiritual advice is. That feels more. Whoo, look at all the kings and queens and whatnots going on in your life. Okay. All right, Taurus. So interesting. We're taking a look at the card that helps to direct. Because it's a general reading, because it's for the collective, obviously it's not going to hit for every single rising sign Taurus and every single sun sign Taurus. So to help with directing that, we're sticking with looking at what area of life, like what themes is this reading being like pulling your attention towards, like how are you being directed, so that you can better apply this to your life. So we have the sun card. I love this card in this deck. The sun card is just, it's our beaming warmth and vitality. When I look at somebody's chart and I'm looking at their sun and I'm talking to them, if I cannot feel their sun, I'm like, this part of themselves isn't being nourished, right? It's like an identifier about like who we are in this world, but it's not exactly, okay, I'm not going to go into all of this astrological stuff, but I will say, okay, yes, part of this is our identity, our vitality, our ability to, like our hero's journey in this world. So what journey you're on, and how you would like to, like how you strive to be in this world, like the person that feels good to you, that you reach for, probably not consciously, but it is where you shine. And so it is definitely a part of like what comes through in the personality, although I don't think it's the most important point in somebody's chart at this point in my life, but it is that, right? So we're looking at these areas of your life. Like, how is your vitality doing, Taurus? Like how are you feeling? Like, are you feeling like a Taurus? Are you feeling like that? Tauruses are just so known for like the aesthetic vibe and feeling like all the pleasures with life, like good food, good wine, good, music, good environment, like all the sensual and delightful pleasures, right? That's a part of that. Like, are you feeling like your Taurus self is being expressed in this world, right? Like, for instance, there are aspects of my rising sign versus my sun sign that I feel really aligned with. However, I know that like both of them are necessary for me to feel incredibly nourished, right? But where you feel the most nourished, where you feel the most expressed, where you're shining, how is the health of your shine, essentially? So interestingly enough, we have the Two of Swords and the Two of Cups showing up here. Now, because we are talking about vitality and shine and all of these things, right? Like, okay, this could actually have to do with a lot of different areas in your life, but relate everything back to this, right? Because your vitality and your shine and how you feel with that could come from your career path, it could come from relationships, and I'm saying that specifically because of the Two of Cups here that I see here. I definitely see that, and we'll get into each of these individually, but so far just kind of looking it over, I think that you're deciding between a couple of different options or a couple of different paths in your life. And I would say to assist you with the decision making for that process, you're going to want to tap into what is going to tell you like which of these paths feels more like coming from your heart. It feels more of like the heart path, your heart's expression, right? The sun rules the heart and the cardiovascular system, right? So this is like, what is your heart path? What would feel the most nourishing, the most, like to revitalize or to vitalize your heart and your sense of self, and to feel nourished and like really vibrant, right? And I think that the King of Wands showing up definitely speaks to, and this is in your spiritual advice, King of Wands definitely speaks to how there is a need to come back into your personal power, to remember and to feel into that intuitive, inspired, creative part of yourself, the part that feels really confident in himself, right? Sure of himself in this way of like not overly egotistical, but like sure of himself, like very charismatic, very like ready to go off on the next adventure, very ready to like you can see like even in the traditional Rider-Waite, he's kind of like at the edge of his seat a little bit. He's kind of ready to just jump into the creating the next thing, right? He's like, I've created this kingdom, like I need to go do another adventure, go conquer another thing, go do like a and so he's moving forward with a sense of confidence in himself, of knowing himself, knowing his intuition, right? And so I feel like these are connected, and we'll come back around to that. But I think that within the beginning third of this month, and you know that I drop it into thirds, I don't drop it into weeks. So the first third of this month of April, it looks like you're already in a position of, just making a decision and needing to come from a place that integrates your intuition. Notice that while she is sitting here and making a decision between these two paths, holding these two paths equally and trying to figure this out. This is actually for a swords card. It's a very emotional card. I think you need to not be so much in your head about the decision that you're making. You need to move into your intuition. Notice that she's got a blindfold on. Know that when you have, think about any time that you've ever been blindfolded and you've needed to tap into your other senses. They all get dialed up, right? To give you information to know what to do, to know where to go, to know what not to do, right? And so I think that you need to tap into your intuitive sense and really feel into, and I would connect this back to what is going to support your vitality and your vibrance in this world. So whether that is choosing between people, between places to live, between, any of these kinds of things, whatever that is, I would say that that's the vibe at the beginning of this month. And perhaps this is because a whole bunch of stuff got stirred up in this last month of March with all of the astrology that was like over the top. Like, I just think coming through this, it's like, oh my God, I'm so glad that we all just were like here. We all made it through. It's like, okay, we made it, right? So, and whatever making that looks like on the other side. But, you're left with, I think, with these decisions. And then we come into like some more kind of watery vibes, even though, like I said, this is swords. It's interesting because we've got swords and we have water. And then we've got like a very watery swords card, right? Of all the swords cards, I think it's one of the most like watery ones. So we move into the middle of the month. And the middle third of the month is, the King of Cups. One of the things to just know, since you're having more than one king show up, one of the things to know about the kings that show up in the deck is they have to do with a level of leadership and responsibility. And this can be personal responsibility, or this can be because the decisions that we make for the kingdom impact other people, and there's a level of responsibility, and there's a way to be a leader in this world as opposed to being someone who is just kind of going along with whatever is being given to them. So this is making decisions, but you're making these decisions from this place of being intuitively connected right? Being guided by your heart. Like the thing about the King of Cups is that the King of Cups is not, how would I put this? The King of Cups is like able to feel the entirety of his emotions, like the emotional spectrum, right? He's able to actually like feel into all the feelings without the feelings taking him over, right? And that's kind of, it's interesting because there's a contrast here with like, you know, here you have the swords that are, you know, saying, hey, don't let your mind take this entire decision-making process over. You need to allow your intuitiveness and your, like the water element to come in and help you make this decision. And then we have the King of Cups being like, well, he holds it down. He can feel all of the emotions on the spectrum and they don't take him over so that he can still be grounded and present enough to make a decision based on what feels like the heart path, what feels the best, right? So, and that's like the, you know, there are other things with the King of Cups, but I feel like that's really the message that I'm feeling coming through here with this. And then we move into the Queen of Swords. And with the Queen of Swords, we have like she's funny. The Queen of Swords is funny. Sorry. I just like, I always have this thing in my head with like the kind of more harsh side of Queen of Swords is Queen Bitch, and only because she says the shit that needs to be said in a way where it's like, yeah, it can be cutting, it can be harsh sometimes. So I would say watch your words, but the main thing with the Queen of Swords is like having the conversations and saying the things that need to be said from a really clear place, and one that is you respecting your personal, we'll call it truth, right? I have qualms about using that term, but it is one that most people grasp and understand. So instead of saying what's personally so for you, because like a truth is unchanging and our emotions and our thoughts aren't necessarily always truth. They are what feels personally so for us right now, and they can change. So I digress. So what's personally, what feels aligned with what's so for you, what feels true for you now at this point in your life, being really honest with yourself, right? Getting clear, like notice that she's above the clouds, like her head is above the clouds. She's got the kind of clarity that she needs to be able to make a decision. And in order to like move forward with this decision, a conversation is going to need to be had, or maybe other conversations are going to need to be had. Perhaps you do have to be really straightforward and like be like, hey, this is the shit. This is the way it is. And like, I have some things that need to be said. I have some boundaries that are going to be drawn verbally, right? Or to have a conversation about something that is more emotional, but being able to be really truthful so that you're honoring your like personal truth and honoring the other person's emotions as well. That's the one thing I would say to watch out with the Queen of Swords, is to make sure that you are, you know, being conscious of your communication. Be aware that you are not responsible for other people's emotions, but you do have an impact on their lives. So the best that we can do to be empathetic and compassionate while still holding true to what feels so for us and what feels right for us, what feels like we're following our path, right? And I think this is all very clearly coming back to this and unfolding really perfectly. That's the way to proceed. So I see like this really like very clear progression that's happening through the month. Now, when we get to looking at the challenge position card, we see the Two of Cups, which is the, you know, people say it's the soulmate card, right, for a reason, but it doesn't have to just be with love. So if this isn't feeling like this is related to a relationship or a dating dynamic, then maybe it's not. Maybe this has to do with a personal, this can be a business partnership, you know, entering into a business partnership, into a contract together. Let's say you were starting a company with another person, like that's like a marriage, right? That's like, you guys are close. That's a serious commitment. And you would hope that you would be aligned in all of the ways in which you want to run that business, how you want to handle conversations, how you want to handle speed bumps and conflicts and other things like that, like to be on the same page in that way. And so there's this fluidity of and comfort with each other and with the way that you interact, right? Same thing with a, you know, romantic connection of some sort. So, this could be about either of those areas, although most of the time I don't see it being about anything other than either of those areas. It can actually be stretched and applied to other things. So if you're feeling like there's something you immediately know this applies to that isn't romantic and it isn't like career business related or something like that, cool, then apply it there. But the challenge that's coming up is that it feels like there's something that it's in the challenge position. It feels like there's something that's not really feeling aligned with each other. There's some kind of like being out of step. Things don't feel like they're flowing easily between the two of you. And it feels like, I think this is what, you're probably contemplating, or the decision that you're needing to make, or the conversation that you're needing to have, and whatever that is, because I don't want to make this seem like, I think sometimes people can go, oh, does that mean I have to like break up with someone if I'm with someone? I'm like, not necessarily. Like, maybe it doesn't mean that at all. Maybe it means that you were considering other options or other paths that you might take, and what you came to is that you just needed to have a real conversation, have that sweaty, uncomfortable conversation and get it out on the table. I've found in relationships, for sure, with myself, with people that I've coached around relationships, that when we have these conversations, very often it can have us feel closer to that person if we're able to like talk about things in a conscious way, to really hear each other, to really find a way to like work together to create some harmony here. And like, speaking of which, Taurus being ruled by Venus, right? You guys are wanting to have that relating, harmonious kind of connection with people. And so, but like moving through those kinds of challenges can often bring us into more intimate space with each other. It's like there's some bonding aspect of that. So perhaps it means that, but either way, there's a challenge here that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed because it's showing up. And then again, I already kind of touched on the spiritual advice that's coming through, and I definitely feel like these are connected, just given it that fire element as well. Fire, right? So you see the salamander, and it's the wands, and it's fire, and we have the sun, and it's fire, and it's a vitality. And I think that part of this decision-making process that you're inside of, and trying to figure out which path or what to do, has to do with like, definitely, like I said, being in what's so for you, getting into that space of alignment, but coming from this place of, okay, ultimately this decision that I'm going to make, I want it to be something that is going to like fuel my fire, that's going to, bring me into the space of like the King of Wands, to bring me into a place of like shining my light. Like, do I feel like I'm bright and like shining myself, right? As the wind picks up right just then. So I don't know if you could hear that. Something fell outside. Wind is supposed to be pretty strong up here today. So I hope that this is helpful. I would definitely say, if this is your sun or your rising, check out the other one, see if you can get the full picture from that, or check out the previous moon reading that I did. I definitely did a different kind for this last set of videos. I have, of course, the moon, videos that are on the horizon for that as well. But yeah, so that's what I've got for you this month. If you want a more specific reading, the links for that are always down below, so that you can book with me personally for a 30, 60, or 90-minute reading. Otherwise, I will see you in the next videos. Thanks for being here. Bye, Taurus.